because the sun is going down and I'm afraid it's going to disappear right before my actual start time. And I just had to catch this moment of glowing frozen snow and my commercial-worthy whiskey display. I feel like someone should be paying me for this shot right here. Though this is pretty off-brand for whiskey, I guess. I don't know. Is it? I mean, the St. Bernards with the barrel around their collar, they always carry whiskey, right? Keeps you alive. Often more associated with like sunny days and, country living, but not so much like the Arctic. But hey, we work with what we've got. I am making up for yesterday. Oh, it's coming back. Thank God. It's so nice. For those of you who enjoy a good pour. Such a beautiful liquid. Take it slow. See how this goes. Look at that. So, as I've mentioned the last few times I've done this, I hardly ever drink anymore. There's really like only 2 frequent occasions that justify it for me. One is when I decide to go out and go to the local pub down in the nearest town, which is a half-hour drive away. And the other is this, because, the exceptions to that is when I have a visitor, which is extremely rare, or if I actually leave the area. But as far as my life out here, cheers. I do miss it, I have to say. And I have to show you what's happening. The sun is going through them. I'm hoping this shows up. I can get a good shot. Look at that. Oh my God. Everything out here is covered in these like lethal frost spikes. Show you a better example of it. This is the wide view of the situation out here. As you can see, I've had some challenges getting out of the driveway. I now park my car up at the top of the hill because every time I get out of here, it's like a strong possibility that I won't. And everything's super slippery. So, because now, last night, there was like a freezing mist. I wouldn't quite call it a freezing rain, but it just sort of super coated every object that was outside, every surface. It shows up really nicely on the porch here. So everything is covered in like a centimeter of ice. It's actually starting to melt around the edge a little bit there, which has made it very challenging, particularly on like my little walkway here, which is all packed down snow. So today I finally busted out the emergency measures. I got the spikes on my rain boots, which help so much. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. Now I can actually walk pretty comfortably. And temperature is not terribly brutal yet, honestly. It's below freezing, has been for a while, but it's not like below freezing. Thermometer reports just slightly under 30 Fahrenheit. I got the one with the Celsius version just for the non-Americans in the chat. They always get mad when you talk about Fahrenheit, so save us the translation. So I see a little chat here. Let's see what I missed. Ashley hopes my moderators are asleep. Well, are you planning to do some trolling today, Ashley? You never know with YouTube Live. It can break through the boundaries of my little community. And when that happens, all bets are off. That's when the beasts come up from the underground and start terrorizing the citizens. And thank you, Jay. Said you appreciate my vlogs. Things have been good. I haven't been posting much on this channel for reasons I explained in my previous actual video, which was several weeks ago. Yeah, I've just been working. It's really eats up a lot of your time. A full-time job is something I haven't had. I've just been self-employed for over 10 years. And actually, like, having to work, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, it really makes it hard to keep the side projects alive, which is something I'm trying to figure out how to do it all. Hopefully, I can find a balance at some point soon, because I do miss this stuff. I miss. I've been doing some things on the side, like music, for example. I actually just accidentally released an album today, if you're interested in that. All of the music from this YouTube channel, in fact. I guess I'm kind of burying the lead since I'm talking to the audience for those videos. But all the music is, I kind of remixed everything, remastered it a bit, and made it, more compact to work as songs, and put it into an album. So I have a 10-song album it's not all the tracks from all the videos, because some of them just weren't worth publishing, but all the choice bits are currently on Bandcamp as of today, because I accidentally published it when I thought I was just saving a draft. So, oh well, it's a early access on Bandcamp, which is, probably not a bad idea anyway, considering that Bandcamp is like the only good streamer, the only morally sound streamer out there. So they should have a little treat. Not that I'm like sending them tons of business, but it is what it is. So it's there if you want it, Bandcamp. You don't have to buy the album. You can stream it if you have a subscription, or you can pay, $5 or whatever you want to actually buy it if you're still into that. But I know that most people, including myself, are just slaves to the stream machine. So the wide release for that will be on the 27th of this month is when it'll go on Apple Music and Spotify and all the other stuff. So yeah, that's sort of coming soon, and also today, apparently. God damn it. When the sun went down, it just got so much colder. Now I'm going to have to switch hands to keep one in my pocket at all times. Hello from halfway around the world to Dank. Videos do suddenly appear on YouTube. That's how it goes. Yeah, Wyatt, it is, yeah, it's not like I'm just, doing paperwork all day or something. It is still creative work, so it's not like I'm completely abandoning that side of my life, but it's not, my work exactly. So I do wonder about how am I going to get back to my work. But, I have a little chunk of time in the morning, and then I have the weekends, which is, here we are. I made a little video today, posted it just a couple hours ago. I don't know if anybody has caught it yet. A little shower scene for you. Got to test out my outdoor shower here in the frigid temperatures. I used it once before early when there was like a warm snow, but today was my first time doing it on like a truly cold day. It's already frozen shut again. But it works pretty good. It stood the test of temperature. So I'm really relieved that nothing has exploded yet. How it works is after you turn the valves off, all the water pours down from the shower head and dumps out through these little holes. And all the water inside the valves also pours out of there, and it seals itself off like deep on the other side of the wall. So it supposedly is freeze-proof, and so far it appears to be. So that's a relief. Oh yeah, I gotta show you guys the ice situation out here. It's really fascinating. I don't know if it'll show up very well, like on my no microphone situation. Yeah, don't forget to smash that like, guys. Like and subscribe. Not that that does anything, apparently. That whole like and subscribe thing is from a earlier era of YouTube. Now YouTube is actively trying to dismantle the whole subscription system because they just want to feed you recommendations and not care what you actually want to see. So subscribing does very little to influence what it shows you. As it turns out, you have to really take control of your feed if you want to see stuff. You have to bookmark your subscription tab and just get used to going to your subscription tab instead of going to the homepage and hoping that it shows you people, because it won't unless you go through many steps of selecting notifications on, and then also notifications on for this specific person, and then a third step, notifications always instead of sometimes. So they make you go through a lot of hoops in order to convince them that you really do want to see my stuff. So just FYI, if you've noticed, if you've ever wondered why you never seem to see the people you subscribe to, that's why. You have to force it. Me personally, I bookmark my subscription tab instead of the homepage. And that is actually a pretty good solution, because every time, like, I just have my bookmark up at the top of the browser and I hit it and it goes to all the channels that I subscribe to instead of the bullshit homepage that shows you garbage. And if I run out of stuff on my subscriptions, then I go to check that main tab out, which is pretty rare, honestly. My forever home loved watching me take a shower. Well, thank you. Kaylin's got a Nuke of Victory on tap. Damn, I wish I had some of that. That would go great with whiskey. I know this joke too. What do you call two crows on a branch? An attempted murder. Very nice. Yeah, Wyatt, the best way to release an album is accidentally. I didn't fight it too hard. I just decided, like, this is how it is. Everything I do has an element of fumbling and idiocy. So just going to embrace that and move on. So look at this. The snow is like, there's a thick layer of ice on top of it. So every step is this really satisfying crunch. And then when we get to this hill, it's where it really gets interesting. You hear that? Every step you take. Like, really doesn't, the snow is weirdly absorbs light, like nothing really shows up here. But all these big chunks, check this out. It's like a icebreaker ship. And then off it goes down the mountain. You might go all the way to the bottom. Yeah, I wish I'd set this for 10 minutes early, because there was this beautiful sunset going on. You can see a last little glimmer of it over there. And then it just went behind the clouds. Now we're back in the gray world. I have played Dredge, Bob. Dredge was such a delight. That was such a surprise to me, because I was like really deep in the open world RPG kind of mindset. Had been playing nothing but that for a long time. And this game comes along that's, very small, kind of like non-cinematic. I don't even know what genre of game you'd call that. Resource gathering. I don't know. It's a fishing game, So but something about it called to me like a, mysterious signal from the deep. And it just hooked me so hard. It's weirdly addictive, and just the feeling of freely exploring the ocean and finding little islands and mysterious things and just gathering resources, improving your ship. So engrossing. So yeah, I loved the hell out of that game. I haven't played the new DLC yet, because it's kind of one of those weird game situations where like when the DLC comes out, it's like, well, like what is the point, you know? Because it doesn't, you know, it's not really a narrative game. It doesn't add much like that to it. So it's like, if I've already finished it, is there any point in starting over? It's a little different than like story-driven games where you can start over and find new elements of the story. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that game for tonight. I left my whiskey up there somewhere. Glad you're all enjoying the crunch. Oh, Bob, not you, Bob. Bob, my cat, has been really not loving this situation. He is a huge winter baby in the sense of him being a baby about winter. He basically does not leave the house during this season. What's he up to? Let's go harass him. Bobo. Where is he? There he is. Surprise, you're on camera. I know you hate it. Look at this cozy pile. He's looking at me like, what, dude? What can I help you with? I would rub his belly right now, but my hands are freezing, so I'm not going to do that to him. But yeah, it's just the season where I've upgraded to my thick wool comforter and added the Pendleton wool on top of it. That's how cold it is. And I'm reading this book about another guy who did similar to what I did. Just came out recently. I'm actually going to do a review post of it when I'm finished. I'm almost done. But another Washingtonian kind of local guy who did a clueless craftsman situation and built a cabin without knowing how, much like I did, which is how we got connected. And he sent me the book, and it's pretty funny. It's like amazingly parallel to my experience. So many things that he talks about are like laugh out loud for me, because it's just like, yep, I've been there. I know exactly what you mean. So yeah, people kept telling me I should write a book about what I've been doing. Somebody already did it, so saved me the trouble. When I'm finished, I'm hoping to actually talk to him about it. I have a few questions. Like, for one thing, he mentions like very early in the process when he's talking about how like they've never owned, you know, a skill saw before. They don't know how anything works. They don't have any tools. And they come out, him and his friends come out to this cabin, and they're trying to fix it up. And he just like very casually says like, so my buddy, you know, built the outhouse next door while I was working on the deck, and then just moves on. I'm like, hold up. You just built the outhouse and you're over here talking about like you don't know how a circular saw works? Building an outhouse is no fucking joke. I mean, that thing took me an entire summer. It is framing structures is the hardest part of all building. Surface level stuff is nothing. It's making walls that stand up to the elements and roof. So I was like, how do you just throw that out there so casually and then move on to be like, I don't know how to swing a hammer? So I'm going to have to ask him about that. Like, maybe, I suspect maybe his friend knew a lot more about how to do stuff, and maybe the friend just did it while he was working on something else. But anyway, I am curious. This is my most burning question every time they mention the outhouse. I'm like, how did you guys build the outhouse without even that being a story? Oh, check this out. This made me laugh today. So my archery situation, as you can see, I have enchanted my arrows. All of my arrows now have plus 20 frost damage, and it's extremely effective, as you can see. Actually, this was all a summer day until I fired these arrows with my extremely master frost enchantment. And now here's the winter world you see before you. High 100 enchantment. Everything out here has this spiky death on it. I'll show you my clothesline. One of the strongest examples of it here. I can get it to focus. All right, just for you guys, we're gonna knock this down while you watch. Hopefully it is as satisfying as I've been thinking it would be. Oh, it's not satisfying at all. Just painful. Okay, that's mildly satisfying and mildly painful. I've been wanting to do that for quite a while now because I keep bumping into it and sprinkling ice splinters down the back of my coat. Gonna need some more whiskey now. Keep the chill at bay. Keep the pain off my mind. I mean, they're really sharp, but they're fragile. So, like, that was, a scrape at best. It really did look like a weapon from the bazaar, honestly. Like, I bet they have something in the arsenal, like a ice whip, frost rope, something like that. It's the type of stuff that I deal with. Part of my job is naming things like that. Like yesterday, I was supposed to be writing dialogue for characters, and all of a sudden I get assignments like, hey, we need names for these 10, completely random, bizarre items. So I'm sitting there thinking, like, what should I call this, what appears to be like a juice squeezer? Like, what is a cool fantasy name for a juicer? Or like a gym. What do we call a gym in a sci-fi fantasy world? Things like that. Questions I never thought I would have to answer. Oh God, I did cut myself. Look at that. Whoopsie. Just a little poke. I think it's just there. A little blood in the whiskey just brings out the flavor. Wyatt, I don't think there's any reason you couldn't play this game with one hand. It's pretty much all mouse control. I don't believe there's any typing that I can think of. I think it's all just mouse gestures. So yeah, you should be good to go. Yeah, I think the only typing involved would be like typing your name at the beginning. Pretty sure. It's definitely not like a reflex game. It's just like moving cards around. Coming very soon, you'll be able to find out. The open beta is just around the corner, which means it's still not finished, but we're releasing it. So, sort of. Which is apparently the norm for video games now. Also, speaking of which, I just saw an ad for a gadget that it didn't explicitly say it was for disabled people, but it seemed to be designed for like one-handed computer operation. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like for doing work on the computer. They showed people doing video editing with one hand, and it has like a knob and some little switches, stuff that's all you can control with one hand, and they were doing all the timeline scrolling and stuff that you normally do with a mouse and keyboard. So I wish I could remember the name of it, but it's like a new product that just launched. You might be able to find it with the right Googling. It looked really cool. It was like probably useful for two-handed folks as well, but yeah, it seemed to be kind of geared toward that. Yeah, Emily, I mean, well, in the Bazaar's case, it will never be fully finished because it's just going to be continuously expanded for indefinitely. It's like it's that type of game where kind of like Fallout 76, I guess, where it's the only difference being you don't have to pay to play. So it's not really a subscription, but they're going to just keep adding stuff to it until people don't play it anymore, as far as I can tell. So yeah, it's really never finished. So in that case, it's kind of a question of like, when do you release it? And only the boss man can answer that question. I guess they're just generally, they try to get it to a general state of like playability. Everything has to like mostly work. And then, every time they add new stuff, then it's like, well, maybe this new stuff needs testing too. And testing time tells with testing. Sometimes there's only so much in-house testing you can do, and then you release it into the wild, and then the players like find problems with it that you never could have discovered without years and years of testing, because it's just the sheer scale of it. There's only like 70 people in this company, and they're already, even with the closed beta, there are hundreds of thousands of people playing the game. So, Holly, how do we play the Bazaar? You can't play it yet. The only way to play it currently is with I guess it was like sort of a Kickstarter thing, like the Founders, they call it, Founders Pack. It's people, I guess you can still buy into it, but it's like, I think it's like $30 or something. Like, you have to be pretty serious about it. But yeah, it's like the closed beta is only open to people who pay for it. And then very soon it's going to go to open beta, at which point it'll be just free for anyone to play. And at that point, I believe it just goes through the website. There's like a launcher on the website, and then you just launch it up. And however, like web-based online games work, I guess it's probably the same with Fallout and other MMORPGs. It's going to be on PC and mobile. PC first, and then mobile is in the works. I don't know when, but that is their ultimate trajectory. As far as I know, probably not console. People have asked about that. I can't speak to that for sure, but that is the rumblings around the shop, is that's probably not in the cards, just because it's like not really a console type of game. The audience for consoles doesn't have a lot of crossover with like those weird, nitty gritty strategy kind of games. It's more of a niche. Well, Kaylin, upgrading your Patreon won't get you access to the game, if that's what you meant. I mean, if you're upgrading it just for fun, then I appreciate it, but I'm not sure if that was connected to the previous thought about getting the game, because it won't get you the game. Most it'll get you is tiny bits of spoilers that I occasionally leak on my Discord, which is the Patreon Discord, and Twitch. I just actually discovered that I'm able to give my Twitch subscribers access to the Discord as well. So there's a couple of people in there now from Twitch, and if people are into that and not Patreon, that's one way to hang out and chat. Oh, the whiskey's getting nice and cold now. Rotten Pickle. Rotten Pickle is a bizarre. What are you exactly? A consultant, inside trader of some kind? You're not actually working for the company, but you like help them in some way. I remember Rotten Pickle popped into my Twitch stream the other day and explained some sort of ambiguous role within the production of the game. Helped me get my stream set up, because it's much more difficult to stream than other games because of all the complicated, beta stuff that are part of it. But yeah, I always appreciate a little tech support from an insider. Oh God, it's amazing how much colder it got out there once the sun went down. I seriously overestimated how long my body heat would last. It's just the hands. Look how red they are. It's holding the damn phone. That's how I'm not used. Usually I walk around with my hands in my pockets. I gotta stay in here until I warm up. I've got my little fake fire here, which is actually such a wonderful thing. Like, in general, I'm not a fan of fake stuff, but for a situation that is impossible to have the real deal, and I need heat anyway, I'm like, why not make it look pretty? So it spits out, fake campfire heat at the bottom here. It's quite nice and just wonderful ambiance. Yeah, I was searching for my gloves. I had gloves that had, you know, smartphone tappers on it last year, and I can't find them. That's really necessary for when I'm doing this stuff. Actually, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't need to tap anything here. I do have to scroll occasionally, but I guess if I just stop scrolling, then I could put my gloves on. But yeah, glad you like the Atlas Archives pickle. Those are we're really digging into the meat of it with these things. Like for quite a while now, the videos, the Atlas Archives they've been doing have been like pretty small scope, just like one character or like, you know, card art or, you know, just sort of like whatever filler material they had lying around. But part of the reason they brought me on board as staff was they wanted to ramp that up and make it more like a real sort of secondary layer of the game's lore. Because, you know, the game itself, it's hard to fit in a lot of storytelling in a game that's essentially just a board with cards on it. There's not like a scenes that you can go and have the story develop. So all the story has to happen either behind the cards, you know, like just through the dialogue, people making reference to stuff, which is mostly my vehicle for telling the story in it, is just having the dialogue sort of make reference to things that are going on. But then the other way is to do outside of the game in the form of videos and other media. So, yeah, so now that I'm on board, we're like really getting heavy about that and doing longer videos with more characters and like really kind of get cinematic with it, which I'm pretty excited about. Every time one of those comes out, it's definitely a group effort, but like I write the scripts for them. So all the dialogue that the narrator is saying, and I pick out the lines from the characters, which I also wrote, and assemble that into like something that makes sense and kind of sheds light on the unique little world of the game. And then, you know, the artists put the visuals together and the narrators perform and on, and then it comes out like every other week is how they're happening right now, which is like pretty amazing turnaround considering how lush they tend to be, especially on the audio side. I find like I can't believe how good the narrator is for those. But yeah, lots more coming. Scanning back here a little. Oh yeah, so I wanted to mention, I'm going to put my gloves on and go back outside. I was trying to get into the habit of going out every Friday, because now that I'm like a 9-to-5er, I need something to differentiate the work week from the weekend. I need some ritual to remind myself that I still exist, that I still have a life. And I've been sort of struggling with like the living where I live. This is going to be challenging. These are the gloves that I was able to dig up. Big old mittens. So the dexterity is limited. Hopefully I can still operate the phone. Yeah, I've been trying to, this is harder than I expected. Trying to make some effort to, you know, get out and go be part of this town. And really the only place for me to do that is the bar, because there's no like cultural social hubs out here. There's no third places. There's no like music venues, bookstores, you know, there's just like no places that people can hang out really other than this one bar. So I've been trying to get into the habit of going there every weekend, preferably on Friday, because when Friday rolls around, I get that, you know, working man Friday zest, and I'm like, hell yeah, let's go celebrate. Let's get out of the office. Problem is, I mean, look, so yesterday At 5, I'm like, I got to go to the bar. I got to go there and like just, post up at the bar, get at least one drink, talk to the bartender a little bit, feel alive for a moment. Maybe eventually, if I keep going back there every Friday, eventually I'll start, getting to know people. And then, eventually maybe get that fabled invite into the hidden world of local small town life. Because what I've found living out here is that like it's invite only, basically. You show up in a small town, you don't know anybody, you can't get past that wall without incredible effort, because people don't gather, they don't go out in the small towns and like do stuff in public. There's like barely even like a bar scene, and let alone like live music or anything else that people use as a way to mingle. So it seems to be pretty much like you either somehow start talking to somebody, and then eventually they're like, hey, we're having a barbecue or something, why don't you come over? Then you're in. But before that, it's just like years and years of banging on the door and getting nowhere. So I thought, if I keep going to this bar, maybe that'll happen. The last 2 weekends, I was at my family's place for Thanksgiving, and like the weekend before that, I had a hang out with a friend in another area, and I just haven't had a chance to do it. This was my first weekend, my second weekend since starting this job that I actually had nothing going on. So I'm like, I'm going to do it. And then all of a sudden this freezing rain came out of nowhere and just obliterated the roads. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think I want friends badly enough to brave a 30-minute drive through black ice to get to the bar in the middle of nowhere to have one drink and then go home. Not worth it. So I'm making up for it with you folks. Cheers. Oh, the whiskey's nice now that it's cold. It's hit just the right temperature. Yeah, Wyatt, I mean, it would be amazing to have 4 restaurants. The town where I live, I mean, technically I'm in Brewster, according to the maps, but Brewster itself is completely lifeless. Like they literally don't even have a bar, despite having, quite a few businesses. They have a McDonald's, but not one single bar. You cannot drink in Brewster. So they used to, but the last one closed. And the nearest town that has any sign of life is Pateros, which is, I'm kind of adopting Pateros as my unofficial local town here, because they at least are trying, like the municipal people or whatever, they're making a token effort to try to make stuff happen there. They have a bakery and a bar, like a kind of a classic dive bar, and then this really actually cool bakery that makes pizzas, and they have, during the summer, they have live music outside. They have like kind of an outdoor area, and then also karaoke in the summer, which is fun. So like there's stuff going on in Pateros, but it's still a half-hour drive, which is what is the biggest challenge for me, is just like feeling connected to a town that's a half hour away. If I could just, if I lived in that town, I'd get off work at 5 and I'd just bundle up and march over to that bar and walk in the door and shake the snow off and take a seat, and we'd be good to go. But commuting to a bar is kind of a whole different thing, isn't it? Greetings, Hummingbirder from Sweden. I got a surprising amount of people from Sweden in here. midnight. It's only 3:30 here, which this time of year means it's almost nighttime. We missed the little glimmer of sunset about a half hour ago, about a half hour. And now it's just the void again. But I have to say, it feels pretty good to just like be talking to you guys, and I talk to a lot of people these days. I feel like nobody drinks anymore. Like I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's just a weird self-filtering effect of my particular audience, but I'm amazed at how many people I encounter online who are like officially non-drinkers for whatever various reasons. They're just like, I don't drink. And oftentimes there's kind of an attitude about it as well. Sometimes people are cool about it, but um, it's I feel like it's becoming kind of a niche, at least I don't know, in my particular cultural circle. It feels like it's becoming a like kind of going the way of smoking almost, where people are just like not down with it anymore, and they don't the appeal of it has sort of disappeared. People don't know what it's about, and all they think about is the health issues and everything. So I'm starting to feel like kind of a dying breed of somebody who just like genuinely appreciates the sensation of, I hardly ever drink. When I do drink, I drink very lightly, but it's just sort of like in the same realm as fine dining for me. It's like um the experience of, going out to a good restaurant and just like having an experience with people and having your senses altered in a way that feels profound. Um, that is still really attractive to me, and I hardly ever do it. But when I do, it's like I feel like I'm remembering something like from the old world, kind of like a lost uh, lore of you know a world where people were more, I guess, like reckless and loose with reality, and it was kind of like life is short, you know, live hard, die young, all that kind of stuff, which is like very old school. Nobody really talks or thinks like that anymore, and it's just like it's not that rare, but in my particular bubble, anyway, um, it's it feels like it. I can't speak for like the broader people's experience, but I find myself in this bubble where like everybody I talk to is just like, no, no, we don't do that. It's stupid. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but like, where do we find that experience then? Like, where do we get into the darkness and, you know, feel a little bit feral? Like, when do we allow ourselves to lose control? And so many people I talk to just do not want to lose control for any reason. And, people have their various reasons, and I don't really make comment on them, but I'm just like, I miss that freedom, that letting go. So I don't know. I'm not here to preach about, like pro drinking. I'm just saying I miss it. I miss drinking with friends. I miss sharing that sort of campfire experience of like, let's go to a slightly different world with each other, and see what it's like to be there together. So I'll just do it myself while all you teetotalers watch me and tut tut and cluck cluck. I want to scroll back through the chat, but I can't. To take these off to see what you guys said during that rant. Well, Laura Capizzolo, thank you very much. It's good to see you too. You haven't caught me in a while because I haven't been here in a while, not because you missed me. I have not been active on YouTube for a while. Until today, I posted my first actual new video in several weeks. I'm trying to get back to, whatever, get out of the work zone at least, however that needs to be. But yeah, Ashley, the hangover is the reason that I don't drink frequently. Like, I had to accept 10 years ago or so, maybe more like 7 or 8 years ago, as I got into my 30s, that there was no more, safe drinking for me anymore. I will always have some tiny amount of hangover from any amount of alcohol. So it's not as casual as it used to be. Like, I have to actually make the decision now. It's like, okay, tomorrow I don't have to be 100%. I don't have to be razor sharp. So it's okay to, have a couple drinks tonight. If I'm trying to do the best writing of my life, I don't drink at all because I cannot write with even a 10% of a hangover because I just get a little too fuzzy and I need to be crackling in order to do the kind of writing I want to do. So I hardly ever do it. That's why it's a big deal for me. It's why it's always a celebration for me. Like I don't just drink for the hell of it. It's like a party for me. And living in such total isolation makes it kind of hard because it used to be when I would have some free time, I would like call up my friends and be like, "Hey, let's go to the bar. You know, let's cut loose a little bit. Let's relax." Now I don't have any friends. Not out here anyway. I have to drive 4 hours to see anybody. So it's you guys. You got to fill in for them. Until I can get my shit together, until I can get a house down there, start inviting people over, I have to keep it virtual for a bit. Which is, you know, it's not a tragedy. The virtual hangouts are, I feel like 40% maybe is what I would say. Like it as far as like the nutrition of it, I feel like I get about 40% of the nutrients I would get if we were in a room together. Which is, you know, a pretty big difference, but it's far from nothing. That's the point. So I do appreciate your presence. What I would really appreciate is the North Korean propaganda agent to show up and give me $20 right now. That's the community I'm really looking for right now. Is the kind where I get paid to promote human rights violations on YouTube. That's the career I'm trying to build. So whatever your name is, cat appreciator, cat respecter, something like that. I got a cat right here. You can come appreciate him, respect him. He's trying to get into my whiskey. Used to be, back in the good old days, all I had to do was say the word North Korea, and that sleeper agent would show up and start sending me money in exchange for positive comments about the DPRK. Or is it DRPK? Can't remember what order they go in. But I think maybe he died. Maybe he was too generous with the donations, and his authorities didn't like it, and he got, you know, fired. I hope not. Good luck, whoever you are. I hope it's not my fault for calling them out. Yeah, Heidi, I believe that was the theory. Like that's why they used to, you know, send whiskey with those rescue dogs, and like it was thought that drinking whiskey could warm you up if you had hypothermia. I do remember reading somewhere though that was proven false, that it just sort of creates an illusion of feeling warmer, but you actually don't. I think it actually makes it worse. But it doesn't matter for comfort levels. I certainly feel more comfortable now. Maybe that was the idea all along. It's just like feel a little more comfortable as you freeze to death. How cold it is here, according to the thermostat that I looked at out there, it's just a little bit below 30 Fahrenheit. So I don't know what that is in Celsius. But yeah, that was roughly what it is. I can't get these buttons undone. There we go. Woo! Now we're cozy. Bob's chomping down. I had a request for Bob's perfect nose. We'll have to wait till he gets done eating to properly showcase it. But yeah, it's below freezing is really all that matters. It's funny how the freezing temperature thing works though, because it can be freezing temperature, and yet there's things that are not frozen. Yes, freedom units, Ken. So annoying that we had to come up with our own system. So tired of translating that for people. Mukbang Bob. He does. He does live that life. Heat wave, you say, in South Africa? Damn. How's that even possible? Oh, wait. Right. Seasons are different in other places. I forgot how that works. I actually have no idea how that... I know how time zones change from region to region, but not seasons. Never really gotten a handle on that. I'm assuming it's not winter for you. I just bought some boots from South Africa. Jim Green. I got a custom set of boots to protect me from rattlesnakes. The only brand I could find that is that makes a wide enough foot that it's not constrictive. It's sort of like the principle of barefoot shoes, but without the barefoot thin sole kind of thing. But I got some high top leather boots so that I can tromp around in the desert out here and not get, reduce the chances of getting snake bit. All right, there's Bob. Bob, your nose has been requested. Are you ready to show it off? There it is. Buddy. Now you get to watch him wipe the blood and gore off his face after he finishes eating. Well, you got a lot to say, buddy. You want to purr for the folks? By the way, for all you cat aficionados, if your interests cross over between cats and video games at all, I am currently playing the video game Stray, which is where you play as a cat, and it's incredibly lifelike cat life simulator, except it's in the future with robots for some reason. So if you're interested in that, feel free to visit my Twitch channel and watch me be a cat in real life. In fake life, I mean. Bob is a belly rub fiend. Oh yes, Cindy. He told me about his time alone. He was not happy about it. It was only 3 days. Not really the end of the world, considering this is all he does anyway. Whether I'm here or not, he just stays inside and sleeps this time of year. So I didn't feel as bad about it as I do in the summer when he's used to being free, wandering outside. Not a big lifestyle change at the moment. But he did still, he misses me. Every time I come back, he tells me all about it. He cries for a long time, and I do my best to apologize. He's a good sport. About all our shenanigans. Claudia asked, how's Overnoise doing regarding publishing? No idea. It's out there. It's been submitted to, I believe, 27 publishers, or 27 editors at least. And this is now the waiting moment. There's nothing we can do but wait. My agent told me that he expects to hear back from at least some of them before Christmas. So, yeah, a couple more weeks, really. 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll find out. If, I guess, yeah, there's a lot of different ways it could go. If none of those publishers are interested, then it's a weird moment for my life, because it's like, well, fuck me, I guess. At that point, I guess I'd probably self-publish it and, get used to not really being an author, professionally speaking. My agent feels pretty confident that's not how it's going to go, though. He's very optimistic about this current draft in a way that he never was before. So I feel excited about that, because he was not that optimistic in the previous draft. He was kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. And this time he's like, this is awesome. Like, anybody who says no to this is an idiot. So that's where I want to be. I'm very happy to be in that point now. And but it is still the waiting game. There's no escaping the waiting game. But it's weird to think, within a matter of weeks, the course of my future could be determined one way or another. Josh, Overnoise is, as far as what kind of book, I'm not really sure what I would call it, honestly, as far as like the genre. I guess science fiction. That'd be the closest thing other than just straight up literary. I'm always a fan of not hyper niche categorizing art in general. Even Warm Bodies, like, if I had my way, that would just be considered fiction. When you go into Barnes and Noble, there's like a science fiction section, and then there's just fiction. And oftentimes fiction has robots and shit in it. It's just the way that it's written is different, kind of like the intentions of it are different. The intended effect on the audience is different. And I think, like, traditionally, things that were comfortable in their genres, like science fiction, fantasy, tended to be written in a way that was like more hard to explain, but like more more movie-like, I guess. Like, especially in like science fiction, it'd be more pew pew, and then other types of things that could still involve space and robots and whatever would be considered just fiction, because they're written more like about feelings or whatever. And I've always felt like I'm more on that side. Like, even with Warm Bodies, writing about zombies, it's like, it's not fucking horror. And it was never about horror. None of those books had. There were like grotesque moments, but like the effect was never about spooky. It was like sad and emotional, existential conflict kind of stuff, which to me is just like, that's just fiction. It's not horror. It's not science fiction, but that's not how bookstores want to operate. It's not how the industry wants to work. They need to put things in boxes. So Overnoise, if it has to be put in a box, I guess it's science fiction, because it's about, basically the real world as we know it, with one small difference. And I feel like that needs a name for that particular category. Thinking about like movies like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, it's the normal world as we know it, but there's one thing that's different, which is this technology that allows people to erase their memories. So like, is that sci-fi? To me, it's not. It's just a human story. But yeah, this book would be sort of in that realm, where it's the real world, but there's one thing that's different, which is that there's a technology that gets introduced that is basically like infinite connection It's like everything can be, you know, zero delay for the transfer of any amount of data anywhere on the planet. So it's like the ultimate internet, basically. Like if the internet reached its final form, where it's just unlimited bandwidth for everything, which allows the possibility for all of these new technologies to exist, for like cloud processing, which sort of exists now, but if there were no limits to it, you could basically any device, you know, a little paperclip could have a chip in it that would make it have the power of like a supercomputer without, you know, the battery drain or the processor or any of that hardware, because it would just go over the internet. And you know, you can do this now. Like you can play, you know, PS5 games or whatever on your shitty little laptop because you just do it over the internet and someone does the processing somewhere else. And that idea exists, but yeah, so like if it were perfected, basically it just opens this vast category of new technology that becomes possible. So in this story, there's a new internet technology that's sort of like global, worldwide, infinite bandwidth that then, you know, ushers in this new era of everything everywhere all at once, like just, you know, infinite connectivity. And but then the side effect that's unexpected is that it creates noise, like actual audible noise. And it starts out, you know, this really quiet background hum that's just, you know, mildly annoying. And the company's like, oh, we'll get this fixed really soon. Don't worry about it. And then, you know, a little time goes by and they haven't fixed it yet. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's turning out to be a little more complicated than we thought. But, you know, have patience. This is the sound of progress. And and then just little by little, society starts to shift to just sort of basically accept that this noise is part of it. And everyone's still saying like, well, they're going to change it eventually. And but they don't. And so it just kind of like gets worse and worse, and it slowly gets louder. And the story is about this group of musicians, a married couple and their bandmates, basically trying to like trying to adapt their lives to this world where it just becomes like music becomes impossible. Basically, it becomes uh, just a thing that doesn't have a place in society. Melody, in particular, becomes like it doesn't sound good. Basically, so people stop liking it because it clashes with the sound and everything. And so it's about these people like trying to figure out like where's our place in this world. You know, things keep changing faster than we can keep up with, and so they keep trying to keep up with it. They keep trying to like try new things as a way to be a part of the change, but it just keeps escalating faster and faster, and it gets to this crisis point of like, how do we live in this world? Everything that we cared about is being devalued and destroyed, and everybody's just cheering for it. And nobody cares about what we're losing. Nobody's talking about what we're losing. It's sort of like almost like an unspoken rule, like we don't talk about what we're losing. This is progress. We only talk about progress. We don't talk about the consequences. We don't talk about, you know, all the elements of the human experience that are being discarded along the way. It's just like, it's inevitable. You can't stop it. We're just moving on and leave all that stuff behind. So it's in general kind of like one of the big themes is like, if it can't be stopped, you know, if these things have to happen, can we at least acknowledge them? Can we look at it? Can we talk about what is changing and, you know, mourn it if necessary? And, you know, possibly, should we be resisting it in some way? Like, some things are inevitable, but they don't have to be. Like it's all a result of our choices. So it's a complicated story, but it is essentially, you know, this little pod of people, basically four people. There's basically four characters. There's a married couple and their two bandmates, and it's about their journey through time as we cover, you know, several years of society changing around this noise, which continues to get worse and continues to like just alter the fabric of how people interact with each other. And it's sort of just asking that question of like, what do we do with that? How do you try to fit in? Do you try to play along? or do you, you know, take a stand and fight it? And what does that even look like to fight something that overwhelming? So that's what the book is about. There's my 5,000 word synopsis. Very challenging to synopsisize this book. I dread the day where I have to write the little paragraph on the for the back of the book, because it's hard to sum up. But I'm glad to hear you guys say that it sounds intriguing. Hopefully, there's a way to elevator pitch what I just said in a way that still conveys the idea. Ken Shee said, a sound tone so bad not even jazz musicians incorporate it into their music. Well, you're onto something with that. And like I don't want to say too much about, because part of like the journey of the story, it's like there's one thing I can compare it to. There's a movie called Perfect Sense, which it has Ewan McGregor as the star, and I can't remember the love interest's name. There's a woman, Irish woman, I think, who is like his co-star. And nobody knows about this movie somehow. I don't understand how. It was so fucking good. It's sort of a romance, but the premise of the movie is that there's a disease, like a plague, that is sort of wiping out humanity's senses one by one. So I think the first one is smell, and everybody on Earth loses their sense of smell, and then like and you see how the world adapts, like how all the things change. Like the main character, Ewan McGregor, is a chef, so it's like suddenly nobody can smell anything, so they're in their restaurant, like, how do we make food good? You know, nobody can smell, and so they start making the food way more strong, you know, heavily salted, more flavor to get past the lack of smell. And then they sort of adapt to that. And it's not too bad, you know, like World Without Smell is pretty bearable. And but then like a second wave of it comes, and they lose, I think, taste is the second one. So there's no taste or smell. And so the guy's like, I'm a chef, you know, what is my life about? Nobody can taste food anymore. What is the point of having a restaurant? They close the restaurant for a while. And it's like, oh God, it's such a beautiful movie, because it's like they keep trying is what's so wonderful about it. Like there's this, like, every time they lose a sense, everybody kind of like retreats into depression for a while, and it's like it's over, you know, there's not, what are we supposed to do now? And then they're like, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna keep trying. Like the restaurant staff gets back together and like, okay, people still have to eat. How we can still give them an experience. So like they start making food that's like all about texture, and like crunchy stuff, and like tactile, you know, things that you can enjoy, and just like the experience of being served and waited on. And you know, I don't want to spoil this movie because it's like one of my top 5 movies ever, and absolutely bizarre that nobody knows about it. I looked up the trailer for it. The trailer is so bad. It gives zero indication of what the movie is about. It just makes it look like a straight up rom-com, like just not a comedy, but like a traditional romance. There's no indication that there's a plague. There's no indication that anybody loses their senses. None of the core elements of the story are in there. It's just like Ewan McGregor and this pretty lady fall in love. And I'm like, that's how it was marketed. So nobody knows about it because it just looks like nothing. And it's so beautiful. So my point was, this movie, I feel like, is like the closest equivalent that I can think of to what the Overnoise, what the experience of this story is about, because it's that element of continuing to try to adapt to this sort of global phenomenon. So in my story, you know, it's that the sound keeps getting louder, and so one by one, auditory experiences are sort of eliminated from the human experience one by one, until, you know, and because the characters are musicians, this is, you know, a big deal for them. And it's about them like trying to adapt to like, how do we keep doing our lives, and you know, at what point do you give this stuff up At what point do you pivot to a whole different kind of pursuit? And they just sort of keep going over the course of as things get worse and worse, until maybe eventually there's a breaking point. So that's all I'm gonna say about it, because I don't want to spoil my story or that wonderful movie. But I highly recommend the movie, and I highly recommend my book, if and when it ever comes out. By the way, look what's happening here. Bob is such a lap fiend. Cold weather, he just does not let up. The moment I sit down, boom, Thor's hammer. Eva Green, that's who it was. Yeah, damn, she's not Irish. How did I forget that was her? For some reason, I think it's an Irish film, like produced in Ireland, and so I thought it was an Irish actress, but no, it's Eva Green. Yeah, they're both. It's so good. It's honestly, like, over time, I can't help but notice the similarities to my experience with Warm Bodies, and the way this movie was sort of just like criminally mismarketed, because I feel like over and over again in culture, I see this happen, where anytime art is made that sort of blends in rarely combined genres, it doesn't, fit neatly into a category. It just disappears, because the marketing system is so just tunnel vision that if you don't comply with like the requirements of the marketing machine, it just evaporates. Because like, it's not a romance. Is it post-apocalyptic, or is it a romance? It has to be one or the other. So if it's a little of both, we're just gonna ignore it. Which is what happened with this movie. What happened with me was like, what do you mean that there's zombies in it and it's not horror? That doesn't make any sense. Poof, you're gone. So I see this happen, with a lot of different things that dare to blur the line, and time again you see that they just get swept under the rug because nobody knows what to do with it, which is like really frustrating, because that's my favorite kind of art. I love things that blur that line. I love things that touch on a lot of different facets of the human experience, and not just like it's this only. But those things usually get buried. So it's up to us to find them. Well, cheers, Josh. I appreciate that. I always wonder when I do these things, I assume most of the time people popping in here are already subscribers or whatever. So it's really cool when it somehow like jumps the fence and gets out into the wild and gets exposed to people just wandering past in the YouTube world. It's I plan to keep doing these more often, by the way. This is really enjoyable for me, and a lot more sustainable for me than continuing to, make heavily edited, complicated video productions. This is something I can do regularly. I cannot produce videos regularly while working 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. But I kind of feel like people like this better than my actual videos anyway. So maybe it's for the best. I appreciate that, Cindy. Yeah, it'll be really interesting when it comes time to, like, when I actually have something to talk about, like a book in the works. I mean, right now I have sort of an album to talk about. Um, it's not. It feels like a minor release for me, because it's, music that was created for something else, for my YouTube videos. Which, P.S. since I've been streaming for a while, just to remind people what I'm talking about, I'm making an album of all the songs that I wrote for my YouTube videos. So if you enjoyed the music in any of my videos, you can now listen to it on its own without me yapping over it. And it's also just like remixed and remastered. It sounds a lot better. Currently on Bandcamp as of today. I just released it today, accidentally. But I'm going to pretend that I did it on purpose as a early access for Bandcamp. And the 27th of this month is when it goes live on Spotify and Apple Music and all that. So if you're into, you know, chill, instrumental, kind of semi-ambient music, something you put on in the background, good for walking out in the wilderness or long drives, things like that. You know, there's no vocals, there's no drums. It's very low-key. But if you like that kind of stuff, which I do, kind of what I gravitate to most, honestly, then check it out. What's up, Bob? You seem like you want something. Is it chin scratches? It's irresistible when he sits here and looks up at me. He just has this, like, this gaze. Oh, that's cool, Wyatt. It's funny how I've heard a lot of stories like that about warm bodies being kind of like a cross-generational bridge. People talking about it with their kids. It's probably well suited for that, considering that I didn't really write it for any particular age. It has sort of stumbled into the niche of being considered YA for reasons that I don't fully understand. So like it ends up in the hands of a lot of young people. But it's, you know, I didn't really write it for them specifically. So it's like it's written for me, who was 30 at the time. And hopefully it's not insulting to adults. So it's probably a good intergenerational bridge. Yeah, Natasha, how's the troll population tonight? Haven't seen any evidence. No, but everyone's being quite nice so far. We had a stream a few times ago that was just overrun by trolls. People were just so mean about the most random things, and I had to assign a bunch of mods to try to protect the chat. But sometimes it's chill, like tonight, lying low. Yeah, Josh, I got books out there. The one that is, I mean, they're all, the books that are out there are all the same series, but Warm Bodies is the first book that was made into a movie, and then there's a prequel novella, and then there's 2 more sequels. So it's kind of like a trilogy plus three actual novels and then a prequel novella. And yeah, Warm Bodies is the one that most people know about because of the movie. Very few people know that it was even a series, which is like, hence why I live in a shack in the middle of the wilderness. But I'm not bitter. I've swallowed that bitterness long ago. How can I be bitter when I've got a fluff pile in the lap? Look at him, he's just jelly. But yeah, it's never too late to promote the Warm Bodies series. Yes, bitterly cold. I did pick the wrong season to finally take this plunge. I have to wear hats when I go outside now because it actually stings. It's amazing how much thermal insulation, even just like the wispy fringe of hair that I had, actually does. You really feel it more when it's shaved. Well, what age range does it hit for? Assuming you're talking about Warm Bodies, like in my mind, Warm Bodies is an adult book. I didn't write it with any focused on a particular age group. Like one of the characters is 19. That's as young as it gets. Everybody else is an adult. I mean, 19's an adult, but like everyone else is, grown ass folks. But for some reason, it has often been associated with young adult, just I think mostly because of the movie, which sort of aged everything down a bit. But as far as the book, like it's never meant to be targeted at like teenagers. It's just a book, Like we didn't used to target books at like micro age gaps. It was just like it's a book. You decide if you're ready to read it or not. So that's how I thought about it. When I wrote this book, I didn't even know that YA existed because this was 2007, 2008, and that wasn't really a thing yet. It was starting to become a thing right around then. And now we have like the most ridiculous micro separations where there's like new adult, where it's books about characters between the ages of 20 and 23 or something. And just these finer and finer slices of division. And but yeah, like it does seem to appeal to a lot of like college age people, young college. I think it would appeal to anyone of any age who likes, science fiction-y kind of stuff. Like it's essentially it's a post-apocalyptic story. So that I feel like post-apocalypse falls somewhere between science fiction and fantasy. It's like it is usually the future. It's the world as we know it, but twisted. And then there's also like some fantasy elements to it, like some sort of mystical stuff that isn't really scientific. So it's a bit of a hybrid. But yeah, it's certainly appropriate for, anyone in their 20s. I hear from people reading it like really young ages, like 12, and I'm like, wow, okay. Like it's kind of sexual at times and it has a lot of violence. But I don't really give a shit about that. Like people can make their own decisions for when they're ready for different types of stories, or their parents make it for them, or whatever. But in my mind, it's just general fiction. People can decide what age they're interested in it. I probably would suggest it for 18 and older, Natasha. Just because of like, well, I feel like the first book is somewhat milder. Like there's definitely some sexual stuff. The later books are much more mature. And in my mind, like if you're going to read the first book, you got to read the rest of them because that's the story. But a lot of people just read the first book only, and then they never actually find out where it was all going, which is a damn shame. Because I feel like the where it ends up is so much better than where the first book ends. So much more interesting, so much more meaningful. It's called Warm Bodies, Josh. Isaac Marion is my name, not Outer Edge Outpost. And yes, there's a movie, which I think is still on Netflix. So if you want a primer, I consider the movie to be kind of like Warm Bodies light. It is mostly the same plot, but everything is kind of like thinned out and aged down to be a little more like lighthearted and like leans more heavily into the comedy, backs away from like the dark stuff. There is comedy, like the book is fairly funny, I would say, but it's like the book is 20% comedy, 80% drama. The movie flips that around. which is, you know, they made the call of like what would work as a movie, and they might have been right. I don't know if the world is ready for like a serious emotional zombie drama in 2013. Maybe it's still not. I don't know. People have a very hard time taking zombies seriously. Although The Walking Dead, I guess, is pretty damn popular, so I don't know. All right. That's the end of my whiskey, which means it's the end of my stream. So it's been a pleasure, guys. This has been a very fun chat, very lively. I could go on, but I feel like I have to draw the line somewhere. I have to call it. So I leave you with this lush and plush gentleman. Say goodbye, Bob. Or is he just going to jiggle silently? He's not going to look. Look at all this skin he has. Look at this. He's not in the position where it really reveals itself, but look at that. Look at, he's like a fit a whole nother Bob in there. What, you offended by that, Bob? Okay, fine. All right, guys, I hope you have a good Saturday night. Oh, and just a P.S., if you want to keep hanging out, I'll remind you again, I have a Twitch channel, which I do pretty much every night. So I'm probably going to take a break, you know, get some dinner, etc. But around 7 is usually when I stream on Twitch. And if you're into video games and chatting while playing video games, that's where you can find me. I am known as Turdsworth on Twitch, TIRD. And I believe my link to that is in my YouTube bio, so if you want to find it easily. Cat Respecter? Where? Oh, shit! There it is! Wait a second. DPRK Cat Respecter. Are you the Cat Respecter? Or did you just change your username as a joke? Because if so, if you are the real Cat Respecter, this is the first time you've ever actually spoken in relation to what I'm talking about on the stream. Usually you just post random blurts of information. We've often speculated, is this a real person? Is this a bot? It's got to be automated somehow because these messages just come out of nowhere. But now I'm very curious because that message strongly indicated that you are real, that you are human. You're actually watching the stream and listening, which is fascinating. If you ever want to reveal yourself or tell the origin story, we would love to hear it. Or you can just keep sending me money for no reason. I do appreciate that as well. Yeah, it's true, Ken. It's very cat-like behavior. Just sort of snoozing in the corner, and then when you least expect it, just walks by. Oh, hi. Tosses me $10. Keeps walking. I don't want to put them on the spot, though. I don't want to, I don't want to make things weird for them. Wait. Chat DPRK. It could be. Though I find it pretty unlikely that any sort of bot would be able to detect the context of this stream right now and tell that I'm saying goodbye and say goodbye, Bob. Like that was a human comment for sure. But you know, I don't want to put them at risk. I don't want to compromise their position. Whatever that position is. It's not in my YouTube bio? Hold on a sec. Let me check this. I could have sworn I put it in there. So if you go to my channel... Oh, shit, you're right. It's not. Well, if you go to my Instagram... Why do I not have my... Weird. Okay, I gotta fix that. Good to know. But if you go to my Instagram and see the link in the bio, the link is in there. For sure. And as well as all my other links. So, yeah, you have one extra click. But if you're really intrigued, it's there. Let me just double check, confirm that that's actually true. I have like the multi-link, link tree in my Instagram. Which is kind of necessary because my Twitch username is hard to spell. And also it's very stupid. I'm sorry about that. So the link tree... Yeah, there it is. Twitch link's on the bottom. You'll find it. I believe in you. Also, all this other crap. So, maybe I'll see you guys in the game world tonight. If not, I'll see you next time I do this. It's been a lot of fun. Good night, everybody.